Shop now at Raymore and Flanagan.
State. Ned Lamont and Governor Lamont, thanks for joining us on this Sunday morning. And in response to what Senator Osteen just said, there will be a vote this week, she believes. What will they be voting for in your proposal? How many gantries, how much will they be paying, and where will they go?
They're going to be voting to turn around the economy of the state, which has been in stagnation for a generation plus. And there are two reasons for that, Dennis. One, our budget. We got to get our fiscal house in order. And secondly, we got to fix our transportation system. Look, I can't tell you when the transportation bill is going to be coming up for a vote. I keep hearing from the Republicans they want a little bit more time to study, So, look, I have told Joe Giletti, our Commissioner of Transportation, open the doors, invite people up to DOT, let them see where every gantry could go, let them see exactly what our priority bridges are, let them see what the mix master means to opening up Waterbury. Be very specific so the Republicans can't say I didn't have enough information. I don't want that to be an excuse for inaction.
What do you read into the crowd size at the rally yesterday?
Donald Trump told me it was the biggest crowd in the history of the car. I think, look, 2,000 people, something like that, showed up. Look, they don't like tolls. They don't like to, pay for the transportation infrastructure. But they certainly have a right to stand up and protest. I would say at this stage it's time to be constructive. If you have a better alternative, I'd love to hear it, Paul was good. He said, we want to borrow more money to do it. Others say they want to study it more. I'm with Kathy. I think it's time. We can get $300 million a year from out-of-staters coming in to fix our roads and bridges as part of our user fee, electronic tolling. That's the best way to go for the state.
People ask me, and they'll say, Dennis, is there another way to pay for these improvements other than tolls, because they believe they're overtaxed, the values of their homes have gone down. They don't see Connecticut moving in a forward direction necessarily.
Connecticut will only move in a forward direction if we end the gridlock on I-95, fix all those broken bridges that are 90 years old plus, speed up Metro North. Every business leader I talk to says that is key to economic growth. I've got an honest plan on the table. We can get this going, right now. The sooner we get the green light, I get down to transportation in Washington, D.C., we get the study, and we can get the tolls up within 2 or 3 years. In the meantime, we can do a little bit of borrowing to start on those 5 bridges that are so important to Paul Formica and the state.
There are some who say that back in the 1980s, the economy here was better. I think pretty much everyone would agree with that. We had tolls back then. Do you think getting rid of them was a mistake?
No, because those are those old-fashioned tolls where you wait in line and creates traffic congestion, and there were some accidents. This is a whole different game. These are electronic gantries. Hopefully, you will barely be able to see them. And I think we need the independent source of revenue. Take it off the balance sheet. Take it off the backs of the taxpayers. Let the users pay for the transportation.
You live in Greenwich. You certainly remember the Mianus River Bridge collapse of 1983. 3 people were killed on I-95 when the bridge collapsed into the Mianus River. Do you fear, or do you have any knowledge, that we have bridges that are that bad that this could happen again?
No, I don't want to scare people. I mean,
I am told
that, you see the X's on the concrete at the viaduct, and those are things that are, quote, structurally deficient, so we got to pay attention to it. But I guarantee you, DOT is paying very close attention. I went over that Mianus River Bridge that evening with Annie on the way back, and, by a few hours. And I remember what that did to the community and more broadly. It also meant that our governor stood up and said, we're going to fix these roads and bridges. And we had a fairly serious infrastructure program. So I don't want to wait for tragedy to do the right thing.
If tolls fail, do you believe that tragedy might repeat itself?
If tolls fail, we've got to come up with an alternative. And I just think the idea of we borrow all this, put it on the credit card, have our kids pay for it, have out-of-staters contribute nothing to it, is the wrong way to go. But it's not going to fail. The timing is always tricky. Everybody is coming to my office, Dennis, Republicans and Democrats, and off the record, I know this is the right thing to do. I know this is the best way to finance it. I know we got to get started now. But Gov, do we have to do it now? It's sort of a tough vote for me. I got a re-election coming up. It's a tough vote. It's the right vote.
Speaking of that, Kevin Rainey of the Hartford Courant made an issue of the fact that you did go to Democrats and you asked for their vote. You said it's a very difficult vote for them, and you told them you could get business leaders to come raise money for them. Do you think that was appropriate?
No, what I said was business and labor are arm in arm. They know how important it is to get this economy growing, and fixing the transportation system is key. So if you're going to be running against people that don't have an alternative or just shout anti-tolls, I think some of the business folks in your community will be willing to stand up for you. I know a lot of the labor folks in your community are going to be willing to stand up for you. And I said I'll be willing to stand up. I'll be out there raising money for the Democratic caucus and folks that are willing to cast this tough vote.
28 years ago, Governor Lowell Weicker pushed for the state income tax, which went through. He ended up becoming unpopular and really couldn't run for re-election 4 years later. Are you worried at all that tolls might preclude you from winning a second term?
Not worried at all. I would so much rather have an important term, one term that turns around the state, gets it going, make those tough choices, deal with our structural deficit, fix our transportation system. I'll let politics take care of itself.
How difficult and stressful has it been to push for tolls? You must face a lot of criticism for it.
I love it. A chance to really make a big difference. Look, I know nobody wants to pay the bills. I know that people are hurting. I'm trying to address that in any way I can. But I love the folks who are hurting and come up to me and say, I know, Gov, I don't want to do it, but I know it's the right thing to do. And I'm fighting for them every day and for their kids.
Do you think tolls will be passed this session, or do you think we'll have a special session to get it done?
I'm pushing like heck to do it this session. Everybody always wants to put things off. Let's have a study. Let's hide behind a study. But I'll tell you, I mean, if somebody says, I'm willing to give it a vote, but I just need another 3 weeks, let's give them another 3 weeks. But I want a vote. It's the key decision to get our state growing again.
Let's look into your future crystal ball. How will Connecticut be better 5-6 years down the road when we have tolls, when they really start to sink in, that money starts to sink in?
First of all, our fiscal house will be in order, and we're not going to load up $700 million in debt over there. It'll be over in the Special Transportation Fund. People have a sense that we've got our fiscal house in order. We're investing in education. You know, on the transportation side, by year 5, you're going to see several of the real choke points under reconstruction. You know, we are just at the Charter Oak Bridge. You know as well as I do what that means in terms of jamming up traffic. We can get that fixed over the next 3 years. We have those 2 exits in I-95 down in Stamford and in Norwalk. I get those fixed over the next 5-7 years. We free up traffic flow up and down I-95. You can see a real difference, and that's what I got to show people. Not that we're going to get it fixed in 2 years, but you're going to know what we look like in 10 years.
Shifting gears a bit, we have Dan Hurley coming up, UConn coach. Fixing the XL Center or rebuilding it, which do you favor?
I favor whatever a smart private developer says is the way to go forward. And we as the state of Connecticut are going to be standing right next to them and doing our part. So whether it's a fix, whether it's an expansion, whether it's part of a greater real estate development in that community, I like the people who do this for a living to help take the lead on how we do it.
As an asset, how valuable is it to our state, the XL Center?
Look, it is key to economic vitality in that part of Hartford, and I want to make sure it's as live and coming back. Hartford is coming back as a city, and like things like the XL Center filled every other day. I was there yesterday for the CCSU graduation. It was full.
Certainly was. All right, Governor Ned Lamont, thank you so much for being with us here today, and drive carefully out there. We can tell from the city cam behind you it's starting to rain, or have your trooper drive carefully. In a moment, UConn coach Dan Hurley will talk about the XL Center. He'll also talk about whether college basketball players should be paid, and will UConn make the Final Four next March? We'll see. And we welcome your comments on social media. You can tweet me right now, find me on Instagram or Facebook.